expert. He's working at an IT company. He would lead us into prayer, song, and also help us to pray. And for that, I request all of you to put off your microphones. Once the prayer is over, then I will go to formally welcome Father Jerry, who is our resource person today. So over to you, Kendrick, now. And how do you please turn on your microphones?
So today for the prayer, I thought the topic is political Jesus. We sing the hymn, Jesus, you are the sweetest name of all. So we begin in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Jesus, you are the sweetest name of all. Jesus, you always hear me when I call. Oh, Jesus, you pick me up each time I fall. You're the sweetest name of all. Jesus, how I love to praise your name. Jesus, you're still the first, the last, the fade. Oh, Jesus, you died and took away my pain. You're the sweetest name of all. Jesus, you're the soon and coming King. Jesus, we need the love that you can bring. Oh, Jesus, we lift our voices up and sing. You're the sweetest.
Prisons. It is there Pilate said, I put the tablet over the cross, Jesus of Nazareth, King of Jews. And what I have written is written, said Pilate. Now we have to know, I think from that particular point of view, down the centuries, where the gospel of Jesus and also Jesus of gospel, they are the religious. We need it for our religiosity, much more for our spirituality, for our theology, and for our theopraxis. Our today is an invitation to see the other side, namely the political perspectives, political dimensions, and the political demands, the political implications, and the political consequences of the man and the message of Jesus of Nazareth. Because at the time of Jesus, and especially the powerful, and the moneyed, the propertied, and the wealthiest, and the richest, they could see this man, Jesus of Nazareth, is not only uttering and muttering good news to the poor, it's not galvanizing the oppressed, and politicizing the mission, and even uses the word kingdom, a political language. And that has got a kind of a political impact. And the powerful could not be silent. And it is there they condemned him upon the cross. After saying this one, I like to now tell you the next 1 hour or so, because without break we will go up to 6:15, and I am going to put it in 3 parts. This only what I now said is only warming up to the topic. It's only an invitation to focus on the political Jesus, which is rather unusual focus on the personality of Jesus of Nazareth. After this warming up introductory words, I like to share with you in 3 parts my presentation. The first one, I throw upon the political Jesus with certain details. And the second part of my presentation will refer to political praxis. Why? As students of theology, you should not be only committed, and you know it, but I have to say it, not only in terms of theologos, but much more in terms of theopraxis. And we need to become theopersons. And it's not only any affair, academic affair, the theology. And we need to theologizing and theopraxising. And we need to become theopersons, God persons. If that's the case, the second part of my presentation will be in terms of practicals, some possibles, some feasibles, and some sort of praxis, theopraxis. I get based on political Jesus. And the third part will be kind of a synthesizing with certain bibliography for your follow-up. Good? Are you ready? Are you ready? Now I am ready for my presentation. And the first part, I immediately go over to. Now I go over to a political Jesus. I have got 5 thoughts to share with you. I will put it to the extent possible, rather clearly. And in case you are not getting me exactly, at the end we are going to have about 20 minutes plus for your clarification. I am at your service. Only the prayer is at the end of this particular session, we need to go with the particular political perspectives of our respective personalities in order to contribute to the reign of God, the kingdom of God, in every arena, including political arena, following the footsteps of that particular great man, that is Jesus of Nazareth. Good. I said I have got 5 thoughts to share with you in terms of political Jesus. Number 1, and there I have to give you certain historical, socio-political scenario of Judea at the time of Jesus. What is that one? There were 600,000 of Jews living at the time of Jesus. And there were 6 sects. You know, Jesus had made his own analysis. And they were living in a ladder type society. And you have to imagine a ladder. And there are 8 steps. And there is a ladder type society. Today, by and large, we have in our developing countries, including India, pyramidal type of society. But at the time of Jesus, this was more a ladder type society as per the biblical scholars. I'm not a biblical scholar, but I borrow the scholarship from the biblical authors, and I like to place before you that one as my point number 1. Now look at the details. A ladder with 8 steps. That meant there were 8 classes of people. And the first step was occupied by royal men folk. Second one, big landlords. The third one, big merchants. And the fourth one, namely the small merchants. And the fifth one, that is skilled workers. And the sixth one, slaves. And the seventh one had 2 types of people, beggars and leprosy patients. And the eighth class, 8th step, the lowest strata of the whole ladder type society was given to women folk. And there was such a patriarchal society. It was a kind of justice done to the men folk who are occupying about 7 steps. And 8 is left for women. And means plus or minus about 3 lakhs of women folk were given only the last step. I tell you, even the very mother of Jesus, Mary of Nazareth, came from the last step, that is 8th step. Such a patriarchal, male-dominated society at the time of Jesus. I repeat, because you are listening to me, I should repeat the 8 steps immediately. The first step, royal men folk. The second one, big landlords. The third one, big merchants. And the fourth one, small merchants. Fifth one, skilled workers. Jesus came from there. 5th step. His father was a worker, and accordingly he came from the working class, and he had certain skill to go by, and up to age 30 he went through that particular trade, and thereby acquired a certain skill for his livelihood, going with his father Joseph. And the 6 slaves, unskilled workers, sold, commercialized, and their blood was sucked, and they may be skilled but unskilled. And the 7th one, as I said, beggars and leprosy patients. And the 8th one, women folk. Now I am proceeding a little further. The first 3 steps, top class. The last 3 steps, that is low class. And the 4th and the 5th, that's the middle class. And the 4th, I remind you again, that is small merchants. And the 5th one is skilled workers. Now comes the point. Going by the psychology of the middle class, they like to climb the ladder. They are cross-studying the low class. But you know, the middle class mentality, psychology, anthropology, generally speaking, and they should climb the ladder. And Jesus came from the middle class, the lower middle class, and the father was a skilled worker, he too coming from that particular working class. He also would have been tempted. Letter to Hebrews chapter number 2 was tempted in every possible way, including this way. And he would have wished to climb the ladder. But was a sign of contradiction. Luke's Gospel, chapter 2. He emptied himself. Letter of St. Paul to the Philippians, chapter number 2, verses 5 to 11. He emptied himself, became like a slave, and came to the lowest strata of the ladder. Why? Why? To kick the ladder. Kick the ladder. If it is offline, you would have seen my dramatic action. Even now you can visualize. To kick the ladder. Not climb the ladder. Kick the ladder. Why? The top should be brought down, pulled down. Political action. And the last and the least should be raised up. Political action. So it's a politics with a difference. When we use the word politics, there are two types of understanding. One is power of the powerful. Generally, when we think of politics, we think of that one, that is party politics. There's what you call institutionalized politics. And the number is rather less, but they exercise the power over the rest and make them powerless. Jesus was a politician with a difference. He came down to kick the ladder, and so that the least and the last would be raised up. And the mightiest and much more the powerful and the moneyed, propertied, and they will be pulled down. Where do you find it? Luke's Gospel, chapter 1. Magnificent. Mary just got conceived after visitation to Elizabeth. And she says, my soul magnifies because this particular one that is growing in the womb of mine, after 30 years and so, he is not going to leave the society as it is. He will go for the power of the powerless. He will politicize the whole society from bottom to top. Bottom to top. And thereby make a revolution in terms of the silent and the silenced, suppressed. Things are going to be different. My soul magnifies. Luke chapter 1. Look at the chapter number 2. Luke, the same gospel. Simeon says the same. When the child, the baby Jesus was offered at the temple, and Mary and Joseph thought it was only a ritual, and they gone for it. But as they were offering that one, and at the time Simeon prophet said, I was waiting for this moment. Now I can go. Why? I say the child. Things are not going to be the same. The ladder type society will be brought into a revolution. And there will be a dramatic and prophetic turnover. The upside down would happen. And this particular child is not ordinary child. And he also said that this child is going to be a sign of contradiction. Mary could not understand, as was said in the second chapter of Luke's Gospel. And Simeon explained in some way. This child is going to be, this person is going to be eventually cause for fall of some, ladder type. At the same time, cause of rise of others, ladder type. Politics with a difference. And he is going to take sides. Why? The point number 1 is this one. Going with the societal and political context of his time, it took sides. Why? Politics, there is no neutrality is possible in politics. And even if we say, I'm not interested in politics, that means you are still involved in politics. And how? That means you go with the politics of the powerful. You don't want to raise the voice. You don't want to burn the fingers. You don't want to change the system. And you don't want to really make a change as per the master plan and the mega plan of the God the Father and Mother, birthing a new earth with all equality, liberty, fraternity, harmony, solidarity. So if somebody says, I am not interested in politics, that will be humbug. It will be a huge lie, a massive untruth. And those who say, I am not interested in politics, are contributing to the power of the powerful. Jesus was not. And he was a politician for the power of the powerless. So that things will turn over and a new society will be born where everybody will have everything needed, made available, and everybody will live in happiness, healthiness, holiness, and whatnot. Taking sides. Number one. I'm moving to number two of my first part. And then number two, namely, he not only took sides and even announced, promulgated, proclaimed his mission as kingdom of God. I tell you, the very word kingdom is a political language. And today the biblical translator changed that one as a reign of God. Because when we use the word kingdom, then we have to ask the question, what happens to queendom? There should be even gender justice. Okay, 2000 years ago, Jesus spoke the very market language, Arabic, and he used the vocabulary that was available in this language, kingdom. As for the biblical scholars, again, I'm not a biblical scholar, but biblical scholars say the term kingdom of God and also is where similar terms occur, and the terms occur, kingdom of God, are the similar terms without going into the details, 92 times in the Gospels. It's a political language. When does God reign? That means reign. Now, today the biblical translators change that one, say reign of God. Okay, God rules. God, not as God is going to rule. And when the liberty comes, fraternity comes, equality comes, harmony comes, and that particular way solidarity comes, God comes. When these rule, God rules. So every time when you and I pray, thy kingdom come, thy reign come. Matthew's Gospel chapter 6 and Luke's Gospel chapter 11, we say this value should come. Value should come. And the very word kingdom, reign, is something to do with politics, not something, it is borrowed from political science, appropriated in our religious circle. But today is an invitation to go into the political perspectives and implications, consequences, and much more dimensions, much more demands of the word kingdom. So here, henceforth, whenever we say the prayer the Lord taught us, thy kingdom come, we have to know it is at once political. I tell you here one more detail, namely that society is not, society by itself is an abstract one. You may be surprised, no? This is social scientists say, society is an abstract one. And the society functions and exists through certain systems. Social system, economic system, also political system. These three are basic systems. Another three are there, which are mini systems. And that is cultural system, religious system, ideological system. Now these three, social, economic, political, are basic systems. Whereas these three, cultural, religious, ideological, are mini system. And these three are at the service of the basic system. That means religion doesn't exist for itself. Including Catholic Church. Who says that one? Second Vatican Council. Church cannot, should not, would not exist for herself. And we are not able to be only churchy, but we need to be societal. And when we are to societal, as persons belonging to the religion that is Christianity, and going by their mind and their matter and much more the message of Jesus, we need to be at the service of social, economic, political. And whenever we say the kingdom of God, we need to see. At the end of my session, when I give you a certain bibliography, you can have a follow-up. But now I like to move to the third point of the part number 1. What is that one? In the latter time society, I said, namely the 7 first steps are occupied by and taken over by men folk. And there may be 3 lakhs, 300,000. If you put a plus or minus 50% of the population, they occupied the 7 steps out of 8 and left only 1 for women. And that also calls for a certain political way of proceeding, and Jesus did it. In what way? When he was raised up from the dead, when he got resurrection, he appeared to women. History changes. Peter, James, and John, and the apostles at large came to know about the resurrection through the voice and the witness or evidence of women. They even hesitated to accept because they caught up with the old latter time. Now Jesus knew that. And that means the solidarity with women and solidarity with children in a very, very special and a very specific way. Again, political. When I'm now saying this one, I cannot but refer to this one. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, down the history, Catholic Church in particular, I'm not talking about other churches, Catholic Church in particular, has got up with this Old Testament mindset. We are yet to really bring in the gender justice. And today is a day that we need to know, really get to the mind of Jesus. As St. Paul says, letter to Philippians chapter number 2, verse number 5, have the same mind as that of Jesus. If that's the case, we need to extend our hand of solidarity to women. And then we know that it's not a simple pious affair, it's a political affair. That means we are ready to share our power. The male dominated society is being done away with. And women also others. Now we know there are other gender sexes are available, but there's no time to go into all the details. But anyhow, we have to see, and the present Pope Francis is making an effort, but back to Jesus. Back to Jesus. Namely, that is the mind of Jesus. And accordingly, things have started happening, and we need to really get into that mindset when we today come to understand the political mind of Jesus and the political message of Jesus and the political Jesus as such. From there I move on to the fourth one. Here I like to quote here author, namely when I was student of theology, the same Vidya Jodi, that is only about 40 years ago. At the time it was a new arrival. Title of the book is Jesus Before Christianity. Written by Albert Nolan, a Dominican theologian, and lived in South Africa, Dominican, a theologian. Was collaborated with Nelson Mandela. And that particular book, Jesus of Christianity, I simply loved the book. I was only a student of theology at the time, third year of my theology, and the book was just arrived. And when I came to the library of Vidya Jodi, I immediately took the book and read the book overnight. Then when I went to South Africa, I met him, Albert Nolan, just to thank him for this particular insight. What insight? There's a chapter on politics. There, Albert Nolan explains, Jesus could have joined zealots. Why? At the time of Jesus, in the religio-political groups, one that was really politically charged, and that particular group was zealots. But now look at the insight of Albert Nolan. He says, though he was rather would have been inclined to join zealots, why? In the Gospels, you found Jesus attacking all the religious groups. But never ever you come across the word against zealots. And not only that, he even admitted one of the zealots, Simon, to be one of his apostles. And there was such a networking. And look at this detail. Albert Nolan says that Jesus, though he had a soft corner, so to say, for zealots, but he did not join zealots as such. Though his mindset, ideology, politicalization, some way reflected or radiated, much more vibrated, resonated with the political mindset of zealots. However, he did not join. But look at the insight of Albert Nolan. He says, he did not join because they were less political compared to Jesus. I studied this one, read this book in 1982, solid 40 years ago. But I cannot forget this insight. And I tell you, I have prepared for this session with you, quite repeatedly, applied my mind, so that I can talk to you like this. That this particular Albert Nolan, I did not think of bringing in. But the Spirit inspires me, now I like to talk to you. And then Albert Nolan says, namely Jesus did not join his zealots because he found them less political. What's the point here? The point is nothing but this one. Zealots wanted to get political liberation only from Roman Empire. They want to see the Jews are liberated from political colonization. Jesus went beyond. Jesus went beyond. He's not only interested in terms of sending the Romans out. He's not only interested to to see that and the Judea becomes a Jewish nation totally as such. He wants to see anywhere in the world, at any time of history, any corner of the earth, any section of the people who are being colonized, who are being oppressed, who are being lorded over, who are being bossed over, who are being dehumanized. Dehumanized. All should be liberated. That way he had a soft corner for zealots, but he didn't want to join the zealots because he wanted to give even a message to the zealots that I am with you, but not quite comprehensively. You are looking at partial. I like to see it very broadly. We have to salute this political Jesus. And then look at another, this is the fourth point. From there I move on to the last one, fifth one of the part number one. Part number one. As I said earlier, crucifixion was not just for the salvation of our souls. And thank God we are now in the advanced stage of our theologizing. But he wanted God, when Jesus was condemned by the powerful, the richest or wealthiest, much more the oppressors of the day. And they wanted to condemn him upon the cross because they understood if allowed the person to live longer, he will simply conscientize the people in such a way, and the voice of the voiceless will come up in such a way that they were not able to control. It is there it is said, better one man dies rather than the nation gets liberated. And the liberation, I don't want to tell you, is not a simply spiritual liberation. And there will be a religious liberation or pietistic liberation. They are also good. Who says no? But it's a liberation in all its totality. Totality. Enveloping the total humanity. And humanity. That's why he entered into a new covenant. He could say, my blood is shed for you. That's for Jews. But also for many, for all. For all. And he expanded the horizon of his mission in such a way to envelop and embrace the totality of humanity of all times. And namely those who were occupying the upper steps of the ladder of the society, without going into the details again, and they could not stomach Jesus, this political Jesus. And they want to finish him off because he was calling spade a spade, and even calling Herod as fox, and demanding changes on the part of the wealthiest, and even uttering very violent words, that I were not born. A stone should be tied to your neck and thrown into the ocean. Was cursing them. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 23. And he said, whitewashed sepulchre. And he said, namely, you are mindless. Strong words, violent words, joking chariots. Namely, in the book Jerusalem, in the time of Jesus, you will say, Jesus uttered and muttered and said not only violent words, even vulgar words. Vulgar. Vulgar means what does it mean? Namely, unholy words. Unholy means what does it mean? Namely, those words are not expected to be uttered, used, employed by rabbis, gurus, masters, teachers, and holy people. What we call it generally unparliamentary words. Chapter number 23, Matthew's Gospel, violent word. No, thank God, we were not there when Jesus was alive. Thank God, he is not here when we are alive. Always what he utters, and what Matthew has collated in the chapter number 23 may even apply to us. But today is a day when you have to accept the demand is huge. And we have to come down the ladder. Even though we may be criticized, we may even condemned. And back to Jesus. And the upper strata of the ladder of the society could not stomach and could not digest Jesus. And they wanted to put him off. And they, look at the word I'm using, they killed him. They murdered him. They assassinated him. It's a violent action. We say in the credo, even today in Sunday, we would have said in the Sunday liturgy, he died upon the cross. He did not die. In a way, that is not exact. And as students of theology, we should use exact words. He was killed. He was murdered. He was relegated. He was eliminated. He was assassinated. Death is a natural event, my dears. But assassination is unnatural. Why? His action was so violent, demanding, challenging, criticizing. And higher ups could not take from him. They want to finish him off. This is a simple physics law. Isaac Newton's law. Isaac Newton would say, you know it, then any action has got a corresponding reaction. Corresponding reaction. If the crucifixion was a reaction that was violent, damaging the very life, and destroying the very life, that is action of Jesus. Also was violent. Both in word, Matthew 23. Also in action, John's Gospel, chapter 2. When he walked into the Jerusalem city, when he saw that particular temple as turned into a commercial enterprise, then of these, he could not control his anger. He got burst out and started weeping and destroying their enterprise. I tell you, then who will accept him and who will allow him to live longer? Killed. That's a political death. It's a political murder. And somehow down the centuries we are now sugar-coated it or softened the one. And thereby we say they are dying. But today, as students of theology, we should get back to the original historical source. And thereby to see the condemnation and crucifixion was a reaction on the part of the powerful, because this man went for the power of the powerless. Powerless. He went against the establishment. He was the antithesis of the day, antidote of the day. And he found that one like a virus, the rich people are virus, and he offered himself as a vaccine to use a COVID-19 language. He could not stomach it. He didn't want to see the poorest and the least and the last would breathe their last in suppression, but they should breathe their last in liberation. Liberation. I can go on, but I like to know here, before I move to the second part of my presentation, that is on political praxis. I like to know, what you call it, I like to know here, I am remembering now, I like to say a quote, or I say a prayer, I will take it anything. When I first visited Africa, that is Zambia, way back 1994, I saw there people of Africa, they composed their own prayers, people's prayers. One of the prayers that I read way back 1994, I cannot forget. But when I talk on the political Jesus, I have to get back to that particular prayer, and then I have to say to you, see whether that means to you, in the light of what I have presented the last half an hour. That is, give us not, O God, a sweet Jesus, a silent Jesus, a soft Jesus. Give us not, N-O-T, give us not, O God, a sweet Jesus, a silent Jesus, a soft Jesus, a smooth Jesus. Give us not, O God, a Jesus who is the Christ of the powerful, Christ of the rich, Christ of the property, the Christ of the moneyed, Christ of the bourgeois. Give us, O God, a Jesus who would criticize us, a Jesus who would challenge us, a Jesus who would evangelize us, a Jesus who would humanize us. As such, a Jesus who would dynamize us, divinize us, dynamize us, and divinize us. Now I'm moving to the second part of my presentation. There, as I said earlier, there are a number of details of political Jesus. When I handled sessions, I got at least about 20 to 25 points. But given this particular time, I restricted to 5. Good enough for our purpose. But I don't want the end session only as a reflection session. But it should be a snowball into certain implementation, certain practicalization, certain historicization. And accordingly, I like to place before you 5 political Jesus praxis. Praxis 5. The first one in the second part. Today we need to go by this thoughts, which you may be taking for your further meditation, reflection, and further reading and reference. Not that you have to accept anything and everything that I said, but I only wish and hope and pray that something would have touched you. And take that particular tip or thought for your further consideration. And the Spirit of God will surprise you with further thoughts. What I given within this afternoon is only mighty little, but it's a massive curriculum syllabus. But I have given you only 5, good enough. But in the light of this one, praxis number 1, you and I should decide today to become more and more a prophet. Another way of putting it, be a living prophet. Another way of putting it, if Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi can be a prophet of our times, whom we salute today on his birth anniversary, why not you? Why not I? Be a living prophet. Why? There are 8 understandings, meanings are given for that particular word prophet. But I am throwing this spotlight on one of them. What is that one? Prophet is someone who stands for justice. Economic justice, social justice, political justice. And the prophet is someone who stands for human rights, and especially for the oppressed and suppressed. The prophet is someone who becomes the voice of the voiceless. The prophet is someone who cannot stomach the dehumanizing context, and he wants to change come what may. Come what may. And the prophet is someone who was got a futuristic orientation, and thereby like to see his very life becomes a mission. And the mission going by the values of the gospel, standing for truth, standing for freedom, standing for the least and the last, and standing for solidarity. What not? Number 1. At the end of this session, or end of this particular one, if you say that it has given you certain inspiration to become more and more a prophet, because the very fact that you are attending, listening to me, I know you are already at a certain touch of propheticism. That I pray that you grow. Please pray, I also grow in propheticism, so that we are not living in idealism and coming to know political Jesus for his own sake. It cannot be an academic exercise. It should be something animating exercise, and much more animating execution. Good. I move to the second one. Second one is that in the light of the thoughts of today, that we also now take a resolve and make a pledge that we will not withdraw ourselves from attending, participating in the political arena. Put in a simple language, a state language, that we should be inspired to put in our political participation, wherever you are. Because I know that some of you are from India, others are from Malaysia, Singapore, or whichever the nation that you are coming from. And when in your own living location, context, there will be protests are taking place, rallies are taking place for justice. And today, we are, in case, you say we have nothing to do. No. We should become good Samaritan and good politician. Good Samaritan, power of Jesus. A good politician. Politician with a difference. Not party politics, but people's politics. And even people's politics, the politics of the poorest, the politics of the powerless, the politics of the voiceless. Voiceless. That means we get a certain what we call orientation, motivation in terms of political participation for a new future, so that we will create or contribute to create eventually a new earth, new heaven. Chapter number 21, book of Revelation. And the book of Revelation is kept as the last book because that is our Omega point destination. And the new earth and new heaven are nothing but the new covenant of this particular new man or the New Testament and political Jesus, political participation. And comes the immediately move to the third one. Third one is political evangelization. Evangelium. And in the Joy of the Gospel, Pope Francis, which he released on the 24th of November 2013, he talks about it. He says, I have got a dream for the church. And he said the church should not be for the poor. That is, even top class can be for the poor. All the governments of any nation, they all utter and mutter and announce and promulgate that they are for the poor. That is that sort of politicians who are what we call it corrupted, contaminated, corroded politicians who suck the blood of the least and the last, who fatten the elder process and occupy their positions of power and prestige and privileges. We are not talking about that politician, but we are talking about politician of Jesus type. Jesus type. And that is that if that's the case, and Pope Francis says that we should not be just for the poor, but we should be with the poor, of the poor. And the church should have that particular, what you call it, that particular presence, existence. Okay, now coming to the political evangelization. I am not putting my own way, see whether that makes any sense to you. Evangelium, good news to the poor. Luke's Gospel, chapter 4, verse number 18, taken from chapter number 61, book of Isaiah. And there Jesus, good news to the poor. Chapter number 6, Luke's Gospel, and the Sermon on the Plain, Jesus said, blessed are the poor. Matthew edits, poor in spirit. Luke puts poor, the poorest. After saying that one, look at the way Jesus says, woe to you the rich. That is political evangelization. Unfortunately, my dear brothers and sisters who are listening to me, they are converted the good news for one and all. That is not evangelism. That's not evangelization. It's good news to the poor, the lower steps of the ladder of the society. And even the upper steps, okay. Even if you and I are there in the upper steps, we have to come down. If you say, I say, we follow the path of Jesus. If that is the case, what is the political evangelization? Incomplete. And that particular evangelization, I like to put it in terms of 3 E's. Now, first E is nothing but enlightenment, political enlightenment. That means to the least and the last, we have to give certain awareness, awakening, conscientization, sensitization that they have their rights. They should cease to be silent. If the context permits, they should even become violent, in good sense. In good sense. For the cause of justice. For the cause of freedom. For the cause of human rights. For the cause of a new earth. That's enlightenment. Political enlightenment. Second one is political empowerment. Our catechesis, our theological faith formation, our orientation to the upcoming generation, and especially in terms of the people who are at the periphery, to use the words of Pope Francis. And they should be empowered. In the process, we may become powerless, nothing like it. Then we may lose the power. It's what John the Baptist says, I decrease, so that they increase. As Jesus says, they should have life, all should have life. That's the empowerment. And in case, I'm putting in case, a conditional clause. If you and I find ourselves and occupying the upper steps of the ladder, in order to empower them, we should empty ourselves. In what way? I give it to you. So enlightenment, political empowerment. Next one is political encouragement. So wherever anything is now taking place in terms of bringing about change in the society, and we need to encourage, and we should not be silent spectators. And there we have to contribute in every possible way. For example, if the Ukraine is now going through crisis, and we may be sitting somewhere, other parts of the world, but there should be certain vibration. And our vibration should really, get the people of Ukraine get encouraged to stand for their rights, stand for their own future. Though the neighboring country may try to annex without going into the details. It happens in many parts. Wherever anything is happening, we need to also show our encouragement and to the studies. Enlightenment plus empowerment plus encouragement put together, I like to define as evangelization. Political evangelization, again, in terms of the power of the powerless. It can be community, part of the society, or a country, or a continent, whatnot. Good. From there I move on to the next one, fourth one. That is political ecclesiology. We need to politicize the church in a good perspective. And here I can tell you immediately, I'm now referring to also the coming synod 2023, synod on synodality. That means when the Pope Francis has given a call that we have to listen to younger movement, we have to listen to clerics and non-clerics, we have to listen to people of God, people of goodwill, we have to listen to people of other religions, we have to listen to people who do not belong to any religion. I tell you, it is said that synodal church will be a God's political church, where democracy. And Pope Francis, in some other contexts, clericalism is a huge block and hurdle for bringing the reign of God into our lives. Unfortunately, I also belong to that particular class, but still I try my best and you try your best. And so that we will become people's church, people's politics, that is democratization of the church. Here I want to know those my friends who are listening to me, and especially who are the lay men and women. I salute you. I beckon you. Take this particular appeal and see that you declericalize the church. We need to listen to the clerics for the simple reason, or we have to listen to the religious men and women for the simple reason they have got certain exposure experience. But their words cannot become the last. That is not synodality. We have to journey together. When we have to speak out, that's put in the very directives of the synod. Democratization of the church. That I call it political ecclesiology. And so that the church becomes a people's church and people of God's church. Because the lay people, the people of God, they make up 99.99%. And they should have the central stage. From there I move on to the fifth one in terms of praxis. The fifth one. The second part, the last one I am coming. And that is, I call it political networking. If this particular political Jesus has given you a new orientation, and I like to end this particular list of praxis, again, I have got about a dozen praxis. But I cut short to just 5, good enough for our purpose. I have chosen the best ones and very important ones. And the fifth one is this one, namely political networking. Now, we may belong to the Catholic Church, but thank God we are living at a time when others, when I say others, other denominations of Christianity, other religions, other cultures, other traditions, other scriptures, other histories, others, even though some of them of associations of non-believers, but whenever they stand for justice, whenever they stand for a new future for the powerless and the poorest, we need to network. Gone are the days when we thought, as the Holy Sacrament, the Catholic Church can engineer such a revolution in the world. Gone are the days when we thought the Catholic Church has got the sole responsibility to save the world. Gone are the days when we thought everything would be done only through the medium called the Catholic Church. There was a time, but thank God we are living at a time, post Second Vatican Council, when our networking has been broadened and widened, and we need to join our hands together, not only with other churches, other religions, other traditions, and as per the latest way of proceeding, we even with the people who may not even believe in God, but so long they stand for justice, why not network? There may be individuals, and there may be associations, there may be movements, there may be clubs, there may be some unions, and they are being colored or governed by one or the other ideologies. But the point is, what is important is whether they stand for the least and the last, why not extend our hand of solidarity? They stand for justice, why not extend our hand of solidarity? And that we be networked with one another. And this is also can be done. Now look at the way I am now putting it further. It can be done even with the political parties. We don't need to become members of the political parties. And we don't need to sell ourselves to political parties. That is everybody's right. You can belong to any party. I can belong to any party. That is my right and your right. But as a followers of Jesus, political Jesus, and we need to be ready to join with others and thereby to enhance in the development and the improvement of the humanity, and thereby create a new society, and where harmony will exist, and all people will live with one heart and soul, so to say, with a certain union of minds and hearts. They are not asking for uniformity, they are asking for unity in diversity. In the words of Nelson Mandela, they are looking for a rainbow world. He called the South Africa, when he took charge as the president on the 10th of May 1994, the South Africa has become what he called a rainbow nation, where the black and white can stand together, walk together, work together, live together. Rainbow nation. Then he said, if the South Africa can be born, referring to his context, he gave a call, why not the world becomes a rainbow world? Eventually, when he addressed Nelson Mandela, when he addressed the United Nations organization, and that was the clarion call that he gave. We should live in diversity and the multiplicity of beauty of the humanity, but no one should above others. All should stand with certain equality, liberty, and fraternity, and solidarity. Political networking alone can bring forth. After saying this one, I move on to the third part. It's a concluding part. I've got about 6 minutes to go. I will finish by 6:15 on time. And afterwards, it's up to you to ask any question, further explanations I'm ready to offer. Okay? Are you ready for the third part? Very good. Now come to the third part of my presentation. That is, I'm going to make a bit of synthesis of my presentation the last 55 minutes. What is that one? Remember, the first one is, in order to follow the footsteps of political Jesus, in order to go by certain political practice on our part, we stand in need of political spirituality based on certain political theology. Put it political spiritual theology. as you are now attending theology and spiritual theology. And even that one I thought of putting in in a nutshell, in a very succinctly, briefly, on what is that one. The spirituality can be explained many ways. But the spirituality, there is one particular definition that I like very much. I like to share it with you. There are a number of definitions, number of descriptions. But I am ideally taken up by one definition. I am not very sure where I got the definition, but it has become part of my spirituality I like to share with you in terms of political spirituality. What is that one? The spirituality is nothing but an ability to go beyond oneself. The body limits me. The body pulls me. The spirit is willing, goes beyond. The spirituality is nothing but an ability to go beyond oneself, one's caste, one's class, one's career, one's color, one's religion, one's church, one's context. Put the point together. Here I like to quote somebody. Who is that one? You should be telling me. But anyway, I like to quote. And he says, we are in search of a better kind of politics. Better kind of politics. Then he says, many people when they hear the word politics, they think that politics is a distasteful word. He exactly uses this word. Distasteful word. In the explanation also comes to that one. Politics become a dirty word. And we like to see that we are not involved in politics. I am now referring to somebody who is that buddy, they will come later. And he puts this way, namely, we are standing in need of a better kind of politics. Today the politics is making us rather not very kind to it, and much more. We find the very word politics is a distasteful word, a dirty word. Look at this one. Whereas a better kind of politics will invite us to offer oneself individually, offer ourselves collectively for the common good. For the common good. And at that particular time, it will unite humanity. At that particular time, there will be no one will be discriminated against. At that particular time, there will be no division of humanity. At that particular time, there is no separation of any classes and so on, but that's going beyond oneself. Do you know who said this one? By now you should have guessed. I want to tell you. It's found on chapter number 5. The third encyclical of Pope Francis, titled Fratelli Tutti, released on the 4th of October 2020, that's about just 2 years ago. And the whole chapter is on politics. And there are a number of details. And I don't want to now refer to them because that you can take it for your reading. And for a follow-up of this particular session, my reference was political Jesus. Now in the light of what I shared with you, read the particular chapter 5 of Fratelli Tutti, and in the third encyclical of Pope Francis. And he explains how that there are politicians. And he explains how we need to become politicians. When I read that one even this afternoon, as a preparation for this particular session, I read that one, I got everything at the back of my head, but there is no time to share. That you can read it for yourself. But when I read it at the end, I said, okay, politician, we need to be a politician with a difference. And that particular thing is nothing but this one, a gospel politician. Gospel politician. And politicians who are ready to offer oneself individually, collectively, for the sake of common good, and especially for those people who have been treated shabbily, inhumanly, unjustly in history, in our given society. That calls for certain spirituality. Spirituality is rather a qualitative term, but it can be quantified in terms of this one. And there I have got 3 points to give. This particular political spirituality. And what is the point? We need to have certain sensitivity to the happenings, and especially what are happening to the least and the last. And we should not be indifferent. And we need to be sensitivity. Number 2, solidarity with the least and the last, spirituality. To the extent we have got sensitivity, to the extent we have got solidarity, the third S comes serviceability. I explained already in the classes. But this sensitivity, solidarity, serviceability, 3 S's put together is the big S, spirituality. So spirituality cannot be abstract. It has to be concrete. And this 3 S's are concretizes our political spirituality. From there I go on to the second point, and that is none other than I have already indicated. Chapter number 5, for Thuti, kindly for your follow-up, read that particular one, titled A Better Kind of Politics. It runs from 154 to 176 numbers. Numbers 154, 176, chapter number 5 of Thuti, that I read it. As a synthesis, that will certainly will give you a kind of a icing effect. And then comes the last one. I just want to refer to 3 books for your bibliography, select ones. With that I end my session. The first one is, I have already quoted Albert Nolan, Jesus Before Christianity. And the books are available, it's available. And possibly you may have a copy of it. But in case you don't, I would suggest buy a copy. And you will see that all that I said here. The second book that I want to refer to is by an author by name Richardson. The title of the book is Political Jesus. Political Jesus by Richardson. I read it quite long ago. Now I have developed further. But I cannot forget that Richardson triggered me in terms of this particular aspect, political Jesus. The very title of the book is Political Jesus. I developed further. I wrote a book. Now I cannot send you because it's in Tamil, even that is out of print, titled Arasiyal Yesu in Tamil. English, that's Political Jesus, but kindly read in case you get a copy. It will be available in some of the seminaries. I'm not very sure whether available in the book depots. That is Political Jesus by Richardson. The third one that I like to suggest is, namely, that is, I like this book, Sebastian Coppen. The title of the book is Jesus and Freedom. Jesus and Freedom. Sebastian Coppen. He has got 3 books, but anyway, I am referring to only one, Jesus and Freedom. There is another one is Jesus and Counterculture. The third is Jesus Today. All the 3 books by Sebastian Coppen are quite good. But I would suggest very strongly, namely, if you can get hold of the book, Jesus and Freedom by Sebastian Coppen. I like to begin where I began. In Rome, I began with Mahatma Gandhi. I like to recollect the same words and conclude my presentation. What Gandhiji said, what I quoted first, I like to end it. We cannot lead a religious life unless and until we are involved in the lives of the billions of people, and especially who are pushed to the periphery, marginalized. And that we cannot do unless we are involved in politics. Politics gives an opportunity to be in solidarity, sensitivity, serviceability of the voiceless. Thank you so much.